I want to know what the hell is going on.
3, 2, 1.
Perfect.
All right.
That was beautifully synchronized.
That's what I love about our clap. We do it at different times, but they all end up at the same place. Or something like that.
We managed to outsmart the space-time continuum.
He messed up the continuum.
Hey, and you know, as a Star Trek fan, I am a big fan of continuums. Continuums are a big part of my life. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about Mr. Nappy Time.
You had the movie, so can you scrub for us?
Yeah, hold on.
You're unbelievable, man.
Where did I watch it at?
Oh, no, we ended up doing it on Amazon, too. Yeah, and that's going to have expired.
Oh, yeah,
so.
it's expired. Yeah, so...
Are you professional or not?
I can't.
Can't. Don't even try.
Can't do it.
Just pull up Wikipedia and use the plot there, and we'll remember things as we go.
Fuck's sake, man, you're amateur.
All right.
You're unfucking believable.
I like it better if you do the scrub, because otherwise it's just me talking even more. It gives me more reason to talk.
You're a nice guy. You're a nice guy, but I don't fucking cut it when you're bullshitting and fucking around like this on set.
Yeah, we certainly don't need that.
Yes.
So we watched Dr. Sleep.
And we are Screen Share and Chill. I'm Kelley.
I'm Keith.
I'm Jamie.
Woohoo! Now we know everybody's names. We know what movie we watched. Now we actually have to talk about it.
Do we, though, or are we all lying?
What an exciting time to be alive. So yeah, Dr. Sleep, based off of the Stephen King novel of the same name.
Sequel to The Shining.
Yeah, a non-numbered sequel, just a sequel. And thank goodness, because I can't speak for everybody else in this channel, but I really liked The Shining. I'm not a huge fan of Kubrick. I'm not a huge fan of Stephen King, even, ironically, but I really liked The Shining. I thought The Shining was really good. I don't know. I have this weird relationship with Stephen King that I love his stories. Every time a novel of his has been turned into a movie that's made well, I absolutely adore it. But if you give me one of his novels, I can't fucking stand his writing style. His cadence is just too slow and prodding for me. And I get that's probably part of what the allure is, but it just bores. He tells me the fucking color of the shag carpet, when the wallpaper was installed, what the plumbing code is in that town, and I don't give a fuck about any of that stuff when I'm reading a book, so.
I am absolutely the opposite. His books flow like natural to me. Like, I just can't put them down, which I think is very funny that we have exactly opposite reactions to Stephen King's writing style.
What I think is really funny is that literally I fall between the two of you. The only two Stephen King books I've ever read are The Shining and Dr. Sleep. Because most of them I can't get far enough into them to get excited and want them, but I couldn't put The Shining and Dr. Sleep down.
Yeah, and I know that so many people love his writing, and he's, internationally renowned and billionaire author kind of thing. So whatever. I'm sure that a lot of people like his writing, and God bless. It's like Taylor Swift music. Like, if y'all enjoy it, I'm happy for you. I'm not buying an album anytime soon, but enjoy.
I cry a lot, but I am so productive. It's an art.
And that's where, different authors have different cadences. Some of the authors that I really enjoy, for somebody like you, Keith, they might be a little bit too quick and, too fast-paced for you, and they might, no, I want to spend more time in these scenes. And I'm like, no, I want to find out what's happening in that other location, So, interesting. It's just another way that art is cool, because different interpretations from different brains.
Yep, different people get entirely different things out of the same piece of art. And that is wonderful. So, Dr. Sleep is directed by Mike Flanagan, who I find to be one of the very few current masters of horror. He did The Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor. And
never heard of either one of them.
Okay, I thought you were being serious.
No, seriously, I've never heard of either one of them. I mean, maybe.
Are you serious?
Maybe I've heard them in passing, but no. Like,
okay, well, I know you've heard of these. You've heard of Midnight Mass.
Yeah, that was really good. That was really good.
And you heard of I've already forgot the name of it. The
Fall of the House of Usher.
Yeah, The Fall of the House of Usher.
I have heard of that. It is on my list. It looks interesting to me, but I haven't seen it.
It's amazing. I'm rewatching it, actually.
So yeah,
I'm a huge Flanagan fan. I'm a Flanagan.
Out of everything that you've mentioned, everything that he's done, this is only the second thing I've ever seen. I've seen Midnight Mass, which I truly enjoyed. That was wonderful. And Dr. Sleep now. So yeah, so far for me, he's 2 for 2.
Him and the guy who did The Witch and Hereditary, Ari Aster. I think those are probably the two modern masters of horror, in my opinion.
And it just goes to show as a non-horror
And I don't
fan,
like Ari Aster at all.
Oh, I like his movies.
They're good movies. I don't find them to be horror in any way, shape, or form. They don't elicit horror feelings for me whatsoever.
Ooh, I smell a In Defense of brewing. But we're not here for that. We're here for Dr. Sleep.
Indeed, we are here for the anesthesiologist. That would be an alternative title.
So yeah, we start off right off the beginning where we're basically, this movie takes a few risks. Some are more successful than others, but we start off right at the bat, reshooting scenes from The Shining, which is a bold fucking move. You know what I mean? It's like the classic American horror movie by Stanley Kubrick. And you're going to come in here and reshoot it, but it looks great.
Yeah, they didn't shy away from it at all. And to the average observer, I would assume that it'd be very difficult to tell if these were reshot or just remastered and put back in.
So there were only 2 shots that were remastered.
Which ones?
I know one was the car driving along the road.
Okay.
Aerial shot of the water with the island.
Ah.
And the car driving on the road. Those are the only remastered shots. Everything else was recreated.
So the blood in the hallway and all that, those were
reshot. Yeah.
Yep.
And for the average person, it's probably indistinguishable. And most of the time, from a viewer's perspective, at least from my perspective, it was indistinguishable to the point where I was almost expecting that level of non-uncanny valley. So I guess you could say canny valley. I don't know if that's a thing. But there were a few times where they tried to line it up 1-to-1, and the slight differences threw off my brain, and it kind of short-circuited my brain, and it didn't quite work as well as I would hoped. Like the woman that plays Shelley Duvall, she was amazing, and her voice and her mannerisms were so fucking
That's sort of
on par.
The breathy way she's like, Danny, is like spot on.
The flailing her arms and everything. Yeah, she was perfect, but her appearance was like a 9 out of 10, and it threw off my brain. I was like, where is Shelley? Shelley's the one making these noises, and she's not in front of me. In the Terminator, when Arnold Schwarzenegger is using the stepmom's voice, that kind of thing, like, it's like, ooh, this isn't right. This isn't, but it was largely really, really well done.
Maybe it's what Shelley would have looked like had she not been horribly abused by Kubrick when she was doing the movie.
Yeah, and RSVP Shelley Duvall, she's passed on, and she was a wonderful person that was mistreated by
yes, she was,
by at least that one actor, and I'm assuming not the only one. And seemed like she was just a really, really kind, wonderful human being. So this is not meant as any kind of an attack towards her, because she's wonderful, and I'm sure the woman that played her in this movie is wonderful too. I'm not saying anything against her, but it was a little weird at sometimes.
We do. I do believe we have to rewind slightly, because I think we actually open with the little girl Violet meeting Rose.
Yeah, the child torture and murder. That's what we start the movie.
Yeah. It kind of looks like a hippie and lures the kid over with a flower and a hat, magic trick, and then all her buddies appear from the woods, and it's really unsettling.
But seriously, how perfect casting was she? I mean, she's gorgeous and alluring, and yet still creepy and just a little off enough to make you think twice, but not twice enough to stay away.
Yeah, I was writing her down because I didn't know her name at the beginning. So at first I was writing her as Hot Lady, because she is absolutely so fucking hot. But then my handwriting started getting confused, and I wasn't sure if I was writing Hot Lady or Hat Lady, and I was like,
either
what's
one.
the difference?
Yeah,
it's all the same. Yeah. But yeah, it's funny that she was, a lot of people might know her from Dune. She plays the mother, Jessica or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I never really, when I watched Dune, I'm like, yeah, that is an attractive person, but it never really, she didn't stun me in any way. She didn't draw me in the way she did in this movie. Oh my God. at least a good third of the movie, I was like, this is like my dream woman. She is so fucking gorgeous. Like I was totally enamored with her until she started doing a lot of bad shit.
So she started murdering and eating children. Yeah.
Her hot went away real quick. That O turned into an A real fast.
So, yes, she is an energy or a psychic vampire. And they eat people who have a shine to them.
You might say that, but I don't know. She looked like a steam vampire to me. Like that, you know, the psychic energy is fine, but it's just whenever you kill somebody, a bunch of steam rises out of their body and you just suck up all their steam. These were aerosol vampires.
Well, right, but the shine makes the steam taste good, you see.
That's why they're seeking out people with the shine.
Yeah. And speaking of the shine, that's where we come to Daniel Torrance, survivor of the Overlook Hotel. It's not really a massacre because I think the only person that dies is the dad, Jack Nicholson. But I will say the Overlook Hotel incident. The ghosts, because of his shine, follow him out of there and still are trying to get him. And we see that his old friend Dick Halloran, played by in the original Shining. This is another great example of excellent recasting, played by Scatman Carruthers. But now, I don't know who this guy is, but he looked and sounded the part like 100%.
Yeah, this one was 100%. Like, I never had Uncanny Valley. I was thinking more like, how did that actor not fucking age? Like,
yeah, it's really good.
I know in my life, like...
Carl Lumley.
Yeah, like, the whole black don't crack, but I don't think it matters over the course of, like, 50 years. Like, it's been a while since that movie was out.
Yeah.
So he did well. They had great casting, and the guy did a good job, even to the point where his acting, the original actor had a little bit of an over-the-top melodramatic... cadence,
yeah.
And this guy, he did it exactly the same way. I was really impressed.
He teaches Danny how to create in his mind a psychic little like lockbox cell to put these ghosts away in so that they cannot track him through his shine anymore.
I don't know if you all feel this way, but I started getting part of what I enjoyed about the first Shining is that I had my theories of what was happening in that hotel. I had my theories of who Jack Torrance was to these ghosts, why he was in the picture, yada, yada. I'm sure everybody has their own little spin on it that, whatever. And it was left largely ambiguous. We don't know. We just know that the mom and son get away and the dad is killed. Well, we think he freezes to death and he's in the last picture and that's all we see.
He's just part of it now. It's the way I always took that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, or some might argue that he's been there all along, that his face was always in that picture, and they just never noticed it. It was in that picture. And who knows? And there's a lot of different, I'm sure there are dozens of theories, if not more.
It's okay. The right theory is that he's now part of the hotel.
Sure, I'll let you sign on to that. And send heat mail to keith@screenshareandchill.com. That's not a real email address.
Adoring fan mail. Send it to me.
But when they come out and they basically explain in this movie that those ghosts were just steam vampires too, I was like, oh, okay.
Wait, what?
I mean, they're kind of scary.
They're not steam vampires. Those are just ghosts.
No, they don't.
What are you talking about?
But they want steam too.
The hotel's the steam vampire. The hotel is the steam vampire.
What I'm saying is that whole phenomenon was basically exactly the same as these steam vampires we're seeing in this. And that put a definitive point saying this is what was going on in the first movie. And I think, I don't know, it worked better in my mind when it was more ambiguous. Like this movie, in a sense, made The Shining less scary. See, I didn't like that.
And I felt that that's so minor to me that it didn't change my take on The Shining.
Do you know why it didn't change your take?
No, why?
You read the book. Kelley hasn't. The book makes it very clear that the hotel is just trying to gain more power. And when you read The Shining, the book, that is
I've
very
never
clear
read
in the book. The hotel is trying to gain power.
Yeah, so
right. That's why it's clear to Keith and it wasn't clear to you.
Yeah, coming out of the first movie, I recognized that the hotel was a focal point of what was going on, but it could be that the hotel was just where these spirits are aligning and where they're coalescing at. and I didn't know for sure. And that ambiguity let The Shining live in this really scary place in my mind for the last 30 years or whatever. And now that they answered that question, they went, oh no, really? Those ghosts they're just normal people that have been trapped by the hotel. The hotel itself is an entity of steam vampires.
It's kind of both. The way I interpret it is so many bad things happened at the hotel that it became like a supernatural nexus point that was able to now it can capture the essence of, people who die in horrible ways, and it gets hungrier and hungrier to keep more and more there and build itself up.
And it draws more and more shining people to it to help feed it better. But also...
Well, it wasn't doing a very good job considering it was completely empty.
Well,
go ahead.
To what Keith was saying, with Dick Halloran teaching Danny, did you catch that even when he was teaching Danny about the boxes, that it was a ghost? That wasn't him alive? Because he died in the movie too.
Yeah, it didn't. I didn't pick up on that until a little bit later. But yeah, all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute, there's no reason why. Didn't he die? He got fucking axe chopped in the middle of the fucking lobby. So
he's talking to Danny on the bench, and then Shelley Duvall's character, who's not Shelley Duvall in this movie, comes out of wherever she is. And Danny's on the bench by himself. Yeah,
they show it real quick. There's a shot where he looks back after she's calling his name, and he's no longer there.
Uh-huh.
It does the same thing with him at the very end, too. So that's like the shorthand for you're talking to a ghost.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then we get to Daniel in his adulthood. We cut to what? Did it say 2011, I think, is what we jumped to?
I think so.
And he is a lot like his father. Unfortunately, at this point, he's a drunk, drinking to suppress his shine, because the shine makes the ghost appear and hunt him. And I also feel like it's got to be very annoying to be a very powerful psychic, I would imagine.
Right, because it's not even just the ghosts from the hotel that follow him. He can see a lot of different ghosts and he's faced with a lot of it that he just doesn't want to have to deal with. Basically.
Yeah, and you can tell he's having a rough time because they show him wake up, and literally the first thing he does is reach for the bottle and try to chug, but it's empty, which is very uncomfortable to watch as someone who knows and has dealt with and seen people in the throes of that. It's like, oof, man, this guy's bad off.
Yeah, and like when he wakes up, and she's got his date's got vomit all over the bed, and he doesn't check to see if she's alive. The baby in the other room, that was like, I will say that this movie didn't feel like a statement about alcoholism, but as me, myself, Kelley, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I've been alcohol free for like 13 years at this point or something like that. So I'm doing very well. Everything's all right. I'm not doing this for any sympathy. I'm doing it more to point out that from an alcoholic's point of view, a lot of these scenes felt very familiar to me. They even pulled off the AA meetings and stuff like that really well. I thought that was nicely done.
Yeah, that is not circumstantial. Stephen King is on record as saying The Shining is about addiction and this is about recovery.
I can see it, and even near the end,
and he is an addict himself.
Yeah,
I forget where it was, but somebody offers them a drink near the end, where honestly most people in this scenario would be like, you know what, fine, give me a fucking drink. Both of the AA guys are like, no, thank you.
Yeah,
and it was just like, yeah, from an alcoholic's point of view, in the background, I was pumping my fist like, good for you. Just not today. No, maybe tomorrow I'll have a drink. Today, no, thank you. It was really well done right off the bat. So once we get to this point, we've already kind of delineated between the two time frames, the past Overlook Hotel flashbacks and the current day, but the music and the vibe still pulls forward. I thought that was really well done, that the movie still feels very, very Shining. They got the vibe down in a lot of ways, but they transferred it into a more modern filmmaking sensibility kind of seamlessly. Like, I don't know how it works, but somehow it looked comfortable to the modern eye. It felt comfortable to the modern ear, but it still felt very similar to back in the day. You know how nostalgia distorts things and you remember them better than they were or differently than they were.
Right.
This movie felt like it passed the torch kind of seamlessly, where I didn't even recognize when we shifted between the two. And even during Dr. Sleep, the music feels very modern, but every once in a while you hear those the string hit from the 70s.
The organ that dun 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 dun. That deep.
Yeah.
Yes.
That plotting, descending. Yeah. Oh, beautifully done. I thought that was
Oppressive.
Yeah.
And it's got a little bit of every time we see the roving vampires, just to touch on the music again real quick, it's got a little bit of light Irish accent to it. Maybe again, because I'm Irish, I'm seeing Irish and everything. Yeah, it felt like a little bit of Irish, and I thought that was well done, that the roving vampires, at least musically, and you see it in their accents and stuff like that, that it would be very easy to chalk these people up as classic Romani. And I know a lot of Stephen King books really deal with the Romani a lot, and they're kind of made to be the villains in a lot of, at least in the few Stephen King stories that I have read and looked into, the Romani feel like a common target of Stephen King's writings. In this movie, even though their band felt...
And honestly, most media.
Yeah, and it's really unfair. Like, you'll notice we are not using the G slur here because it's horrible. But it feels like this movie kind of distanced itself from that. Even though the band of vampires felt very Romani, they all came from different cultures. They all had very different accents. There were different little light music motifs that made me feel like there was a callback. Like I said, every time the Hat Woman came up, it felt like there was just a touch of like light Irish, like pan flute or something in the background, or I'm sorry, penny whistle, that kind of thing.
Yeah, very.
Pan flute is not Irish, but penny whistle is though.
Bunch of nomadic hippie vampires.
Yeah. To finalize the scene that we were just talking about, the fact that he walks away with the baby sitting in vomit and gives it a bag of chips.
Well, before that, he raids her wallet, and the ghost of Halloran shows up. Yeah. And he's like, "Come on, Doc, you can at least put the money back." And I thought that was nice that he's being nagged to be better by his friend Ghost, like keeps showing up.
What a shitty thing in life to have your conscience actually like show up as a person and yell at you. Yeah. I would be like, fuck off, dude. Like, no, I don't want to deal with
And
this.
not just any person, but somebody you looked up to and was so helpful to you in your life.
Hey, Doc, I don't think you should call into work today. You're actually feeling just fine. Why are you lying to your boss, Doc? Shut up, man. Shut up.
Like,
I want to play video games.
Like, I already have these thoughts to myself internally. I don't need you.
I don't need an old wise black man giving it voice and standing in my path.
Right. My own bespoke old wise black man fussing me. Actually, the world would probably be a better place if each of us had that going on for us, to be honest.
Yeah, a little bit more shame without the PTSD to go with it.
Yeah.
I wrote a note here too that I don't know, maybe the reason why they got the addiction so well, and Ewan McGregor leaving the scene and just the way he's slightly staggering and he looks hungover. Ewan's got a lot of experience playing people fucked up on screen, right? So, like, what was his first real breakout movie? Was Trainspotting, and he was a fucked up heroin addict.
Exactly.
In that. So, not that all heroin addicts are fucked up, but he was in that movie.
Yeah. And I love ever since he came on the scene as Obi-Wan, I have loved Ewan McGregor. So I'm always happy.
He came onto the scene as Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
Oh my God, heresy, heresy.
Oh,
he was a huge person
been around
before
so
that.
long by that point.
Well, no one's anybody for me until they're in Star Wars. Okay.
I don't know. He became a real solid actor for me when he played Christian in Moulin Rouge.
Yeah, that was probably the moment that I totally was like in the fandom for him.
Yeah.
And see, I had never seen that until like 2 years ago.
When I forced you to watch it for movie night, pre-pod days. Yeah.
It was really good.
And you liked it.
Yeah.
You enjoyed it.
I've never seen him be bad in something. I've seen him be maybe okay in something, but I've never seen him be bad in something. And so we now see, when we cut back to the group of psychic vampires, that they are hunting someone with a strong shine. And at first I thought they were talking about Danny, but...
No, they're talking about midichlorians.
Yeah, right. His midichlorians. We need to check his midichlorians so we can eat his steam.
She's the chosen one. She is prophesied to bring balance to the Force.
He has definite themes. It's always very troubled and supernatural.
Uh-huh. And his high count of supernatural ability is always with Ewan. But
his power level is over 9,000.
I liked the scene where they show the kid that they're talking about, and they're talking about his shine and how the pitchers can never strike him out. It seems like he knows what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just his natural ability to see what's coming. And they're in the stands, and they show the people talking about it, like, yeah, he's going to have scouts coming for him soon, and there is a scout there, but not the kind he's talking about, you know?
Yeah.
It's really creepy, the guys in the stands watching this psychic kid, keeping tabs on him so that they can hunt him later, so they can procure him.
And do we meet Abracadabra before or after we see the little boy in the
I believe
diamond?
Before, but only through the hello written on the chalkboard in Ewan McGregor's apartment.
Yeah.
Well, we have the
Not as an actual person.
the birthday party where they have a magician and she's like, oh, I can do that too, kind of thing.
Right.
And I gotta say, like, I didn't realize that this character was supposed to be important. I just thought it was like a background character that they were trying to show a party, and they just had, oh, you, little girl in the back, you speak up. I didn't realize she was a main character, so I wrote, quote, Abracadabra girl is so fucking cute. And I didn't realize that was going to be her actual fucking name. And she is. She's adorable. That little girl that played that part, like, she has that where she almost speaks perfect English, but she has a little bit of a kid accent to her to her words. She was adorable.
Speaking of his apartment, he gets away from his situation. Danny winds up in a different city and is looking for work as, you know, sort of the life of a vagrant at this point. And meets a guy who works for the city, and the guy sets him up with an apartment and a job in a hospice place. And
he's working on Tiny Town.
Yeah.
He's working on Tiny Town from Arrested Development. That's what came to mind. I imagine.
Smashing it. Yeah. But his apartment, he gets up there. It's that nice studio loft, and the lady says it's $80 a week. I'm like, fuck, can I move in?
Right? I had the same thought.
$85 a week for a loft apartment that's furnished, and it's in a nice town. It's within walking distance of everything that you need in city. Like,
she's like,
everybody I know people that own houses that would sell their houses and move into that apartment.
Absolutely. I would 100% give up my house and go live there. And she's like, the only stipulations are pay your rent and be quiet. And I'm like, you got it, lady. I have headphones. I can fucking do
Sunday
whatever.
afternoons from 1 to 3. I'm going to be yelling into my mic about movies, but other than that,
right. Right. So I wish I had the opportunity to live in Danny Torrance's fucking awesome loft apartment for $85 a week.
$85 a week, more like $8,000 a month in today's market,
right?
Like even in 2011 prices is when that takes place. That's still very good. Like,
yeah,
good lord.
I mean, you don't have your own kitchen. You do have to use somebody else's kitchen. Like, you do have to share some things.
Whatever.
You do have your own
a microwave and a plug-in stovetop fixes that for you. It's like, there's no drawback I can see to that living situation.
No, I was on board. I was like, can I move in there?
Is there a toilet handy? Anyway.
There's a bathroom. Yeah. He had his own private bathroom.
That's all you need.
Yeah, there you go. So that's one thing I noticed, that even when he gets off of the bus into town, I think this was when he gets off the bus into town. It happens a bunch in the movie. But so him getting off the bus into town and walking around is such a slow establishing shot that you need something that's going to like keep your attention other than Ewan McGregor's beautiful voice and face acting the way he does.
His vase. We're going to just make that short.
Yeah, his beautiful vase. He takes it everywhere with him.
Yeah.
But they use the heartbeat sound effect in the background a lot in this movie.
Yep.
And I was like, man, that's so fucking cheap. And I love it. Like, it works. And it's like, if I ever make a movie, I'm going to put heartbeats in scenes that don't even make sense. So yeah. I really enjoyed the heartbeat.
Well, and the whole scene setting up of that town where you're looking at it and it's this quaint little town and then it's got this little tiny town thing always reminds me of the meme where somebody moved to like Maine and was like, I've read Stephen King books all my life and you think he's making things up just to make a good story. But nope. This is literally what the towns up there are like.
Yep. People move into a small town in Connecticut expecting Stars Hollow from Gilmore Girls, and they get part of it. They don't get the walking distance and cheap rates, but they get the nosy neighbors. That they get that part.
Right.
And I hate to keep making comparisons to The Shining, but I think that we're going to have to, because this is a sequel, so there are comparisons and contrasts to make, even positive and negative. And for the most part, this movie does a great job.
And they make comparisons constantly.
Yeah, they draw them themselves. They ask you to think about The Shining a lot while you're watching this movie. And
Right.
the one thing that I thought definitely separated this movie, aside from obviously modern sensibilities and that kind of stuff, was The Shining was very grounded in reality. Like, it took you like a good half of the movie before you saw anything that was like undeniably supernatural. That like it wasn't just a kid having dreams and stuff like that. And even by the end, like, what evidence do they have? Like, you could read what you saw on the screen in the Shining first movie as this is just a man going fucking crazy and he is losing his mind and yada yada. Whereas this movie starts out with murder and fantastical elements immediately. This movie jumped both feet into fantastical, whereas the other movie stayed firmly rooted in very grounded reality, even to the end. We don't know for sure exactly what happened with the movie because everything could be explained as fairly normal phenomenon, just people losing their minds.
Yeah, through isolation.
No, people aren't losing their minds. There's steam vampires flying around and murdering children for their steam.
You could also look at it as if in the spirit of continuation, The Shining builds up and gives you an explosion of supernatural at the end. So right from the bat, we're starting with that as our sort of modus operandi, because we've already been there. So you could also sort of...
It wasn't even necessarily a negative. It's just something that I noticed that part of what I liked about The Shining was that it was so grounded that you don't know what's happening. And in this movie, it didn't detract from my enjoyment, we'll say.
Sure.
It is also important to point out that The Shining, the Kubrick version of The Shining, was hated by Stephen King because it did leave it so grounded in reality. And that is not how Stephen King wrote it. And this movie actually worked closely with Stephen King, and so it kind of melds the two together. So it is much more loyal to Stephen King's version of The Shining and that story.
Yeah, I want to talk about that at the end because there's some cool stuff to say about that.
And there's something to be said about maybe this is like a V for Vendetta type thing where Alan Moore was way up against V for Vendetta because it didn't follow his ideology and what he meant as the message for the comic book. But we as an audience went, okay, I'm sure the comic book is really, really good, but the movie was also really good. So Stephen King, I'm sorry that they changed your story in this way, but the way that they changed it worked really fucking well, as noticed by the entire world loving it and winning many awards. Like, I'm sorry, Mr. King, you're wrong. As much you created it, but somebody else made it better, or somebody else made a different version of it that was more who has read the book versus who has seen the movie. I know one's more of a time commitment, but it's probably dwarfed in numbers.
Another thing about this movie is it does a whole lot in a little time, because the book of Dr. Sleep is very dense. Like the namesake, him working as the aide in the hospice, and the cat would go sit with the people who are going to die next, and he comes and kind of talks them into the next life. That's how he gets his nickname, Dr. Sleep. It's very briefly shown in the movie, but I feel like a great deal of the book is spent on showing you his life in that and doing that. So there's and maybe that's kind of maybe to what you were talking about, what you don't like about Stephen King's writing is there's a lot more of that in the book. But this movie it shows it. It gives you everything you need in a shorter amount of time, and I think that's wise for this movie just to keep the pacing going.
And he said, I forget who says it, but the line of the world is just one big hospice.
Yes, I wrote that down. Yes,
I did too, because that is, the world is one big hospice with fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you have somebody that can see ghosts and can see death coming, is taking care of dead people, is that cruel? Is that a cruel job for him to have? Like, give that to anybody but him? Or is that really good career advice? Like, hey, bro, you're already seeing dead people. Why don't you see the people that are going to be dead soon? You're going to see them in a minute anyway, so let's just cut to the chase. It's like a synergy of his talents.
I kind of feel it's like a great, to me, it speaks to like he is able to help them cross over on both sides. So he's there when they're living, and then he can see them afterwards and continue to help if necessary.
I am currently I'm on the last book of Stephen King's Dark Tower series. And a lot of his other books, he has made, like, the Dark Tower is sort of a multiversal thing. And a lot of his other books feed directly into it or are influenced by the Dark Tower without them knowing it, sort of thing. You know, there's, like, different realities that are touched upon in the Dark Tower. And, one of the lines that just happened in the book that I made note of is there's these people who are responsible for basically the destruction of the entire universe. Like the bad guy is gathering people who shine, using them to break down this barrier that's going to destroy the universe. And one of the things they're explaining like why they did it. And they're like, well, the thing about talent is that it screams to be used. Like, you know, you could, talent is the thing that will wake you up at 2 a.m. In the morning and say, use me, use me, use me.
Well, that certainly calls for a dirty.
And so this bad guy gave all these people with shine a reason to use their talent. This is a reason and a calling for Danny Torrance to use his talent. Just to say that I don't think it's cruel, I think it's necessary. It's one of those things like, I am able to do this, no one else can do this, so this is what I am going to do.
Oh, yeah, I totally understand. It's more the humor of it, of this poor guy.
Sure.
It's already hard enough for him. So it'd be like, it's somebody that's afraid of heights, but understands heights really well, and then putting them in tall towers for a living. Like, okay, sure, you know, I guess if he's the best one for the job, yeah, and he pisses himself every time we put him up in the pole. So
shakes and cries and screams, I don't want to do this.
This is your calling, Danny. Okay, thanks.
But I think it's interesting to show that's even synergy within Stephen King's world is the whole thing about talent begging to be used. It's apparent.
Well, there's some truth to that. I think everybody's creative. That's part of one of my philosophies on life is that I feel like everybody is an artist in some way. I think the human condition, the human brain is geared towards creating stuff that helps us navigate the world and understand the world and help other people understand our experience of the world and that kind of stuff. So anybody that's a creator, I think, can understand this to a certain degree. Like during the early days of the pandemic, when we all were sitting at home, well, not all of us, but when a lot of people were sitting at home, people that were sitting at home, you saw them start to take up all these artistic endeavors, whether it was, you know, the bread making craze or people starting up podcasts or people like I got into writing music for my second album, that kind of stuff. People, they want to create stuff, and that talent, it does kind of draw at you. Sometimes it works from a place of you have to help people. Sometimes it works from a place of there's something that you need to tell the world or something that you need to process. And sometimes it works, like we were talking earlier, through shame, and it makes you feel like you have been given this talent to create. And what are you doing? What are you doing with creating? When you die, only a certain number of pieces of art. To quote the Brandon Lee quote, you wake up every morning and you think that the number of sunsets you will see are endless, but they are numbered, and you only get so many sunsets. What have you done with your sunsets? And that's where, I guess, for me, a lot of times art kind of gets pushed out of me because I feel that the formality and the end time of our life coming, that you have to do something with the time so that, you know, so you create.
Yeah. 100%. I get that feeling a lot, and a microcosm of that is the Sunday Scaries, which I'm experiencing right now. Like,
yeah. Going back to work Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, what am I going to do with the rest of my day? Oh my God.
You have a timer listed and you're going, okay, I've got 8 hours until I have to go to bed. I have 7 hours and 59 minutes until I have to go to bed.
Right.
And then I end up staying up till like 2 a.m. And then I'm like, now I'm not going to have any sleep before tomorrow.
Yep. Now I have fucked myself. Yeah. Now tomorrow is going to be even worse.
Then I have to bribe myself to go to work.
Yeah, with chocolate or a fancy coffee in the morning or
coffee,
something. The avocado toast. That's what does it
Yep.
for most of us, right?
Tim Hortons.
Okay, so what you're explaining, the Dark Horse trilogy or whatever it's called. Is that Dark Tower?
Dark Tower.
Yeah.
Dark Tower.
Septology.
Yeah, I've never read them. I have them behind me, but yeah, that whole series.
I love that you don't really like Stephen King, but you have the whole Dark Tower series behind you.
My niece is into Stephen King, and I was collecting a bunch of Stephen King books to send her, and now I'm juggling. How do I send all of these hardcover books for?
They're good. You should read them instead.
Maybe I'll try, but I've tried Stephen King a million times. But it occurs to me now that when you're talking about the multiverse and somebody trying to get the steam from all these different people, is the steam, could somebody say that that's where, like, this is the offshoot of the Highlander series? Like, the Highlanders and those with Shining are kind of the same. Like, when Hot Lady kills the little kid, does she scream at the stars and goes, "There could be only one"? And then all the other people in her tribe are like,
I mean, I don't think she screams, but I think that that's kind of what she's going for. And I think that her tribe doesn't, they realize it, but they don't realize it. And they kind of like, put it off. Like, yeah, she's definitely getting the best deal out of all of it. And then she kind of shares.
And they're trying to find the reasons why The Shining has been like diluted. And I'm like, it's just global population increase, baby. That's all it is. Like back when you were, trying to get The Shining 500 years ago, there was only like 1 billion people on the planet. Now there's 9 billion people.
Speaking of feeding on the kids' steam, this movie, I would say, maybe until the last 20 minutes or so, definitely feels less of a quote-unquote horror movie than The Shining. I mean, it has all the elements, but it doesn't have a lot of, like, chill your blood horror. But the scene where they kidnap and feed on this kid goes so far beyond what is, like, the norm that you are ready to expect in a movie. Because, there's shots of this kid with like blood on his face, screaming and in pain, and it's truly horrific.
It traumatized all the actors, but the kid actor. They actually had to shoot more than one shot because his first shot was so good that nobody else could remember their lines. They were stumbling over their lines. They were so terrified of his reaction.
It was blood curdling. That is a blood curdling scream.
Yeah.
Like. And he was crying too. He was begging for his life. Oh my God.
And his mom, he wants his mom, please don't hurt. Oh my, it was horrifying.
Yes.
I remember being super cocky because someone had said to me, are you going to feel really emotionally distraught, tearing him to bits and eating him up? And I went, no, because I get paid to act. Something passive aggressive like that. And then we were rolling. I was getting ready. I got my knife, I'm stretching in the background and it's action. And all of a sudden, I hear this sound that is like a pig screaming before slaughter. It is the most harrowing, and I'm standing. And I've never experienced it, ever. Tears just start pouring. And I'm like, shh. And I'm just wiping my face, thinking I'm going to ruin his take. And then I glide in, and I'm literally, you can see in the shot, I think between another one, I'm moving my head and wiping tears whilst filming this scene. And then, cut, and I'm looking at him, and he goes, Dad, could I have a Coke, please? And I'm like, yeah, cool.
And there's that bone-chilling shot. It's just for a second, but they show like his perspective, and they're all huddled over him, and their eyes are glowing, and it's just like, oh, I'm so fucking creeped out. Very, very good. If you like horror,
this is when I start getting the real heavy Romani vibes, and I'm really curious, and I might look it up while we're watching, but I'm really curious what Romani people think of The Shining. What is the Romani community? How do they respond to Stephen King's novels? Because it feels like he really kind of picks on them a bit. Oh, another thing that I thought maybe is diluting the amount of steam in the world, and be warned, it's all the AI art and music. It's removing all the soul from humanity. Yeah.
So our abracadabra girl picks up on this killing of this kid because he's got the shine, she's got the shine, and she has been, as we know, in communication with Daniel Torrance, and she reaches out to him as she's experiencing like the psychic residue shocks of them killing this kid, and cracks the word murder backwards into his little chalkboard that they've been using to communicate. And as we all know, he wakes up and sees the red rum that he saw from his childhood, and he knows something very bad has happened.
Yeah. When I was watching this movie, I had somebody over and they had not seen The Shining before. So there were a few times where I had to explain like, oh, that's so-and-so and that's so-and-so. That's one of those moments where I didn't need to explain anything. It doesn't matter if you've seen The Shining or not. You know that red rum or the murder with the back
red rum,
that kind of thing. Yeah. And then she tells her parents about it, and her parents' response, like, they just cracked me up. She is obviously traumatic. They know that she's special. They found the spoons on the ceiling of the kitchen and stuff like that. So they know that there's something different about her. And she is crying. She is apoplectic about, oh my God, they killed him. And they both, the mom's response is, it's okay. The dad's response is, it's all right. And I'm like, no, it's not okay. It's not all right. What part of like, I get it that you're just trying to soothe your child, but that was just mindless soothing. Like those parents they didn't care. It felt like they completely ignored the fact that their child was different, that she was afraid that they might find out about it. Obviously they had kind of alluded to, if you keep acting like this, we're going to send you somewhere or something. They're painted as these beautiful parents because both of them are very attractive. They're both in an idyllic setting. Their house is gorgeous, yada, yada. But just the words on the page kind of thing, these parents suck. I did not like these parents at all. It's okay. It's all right. No, it's not. I just lived through a fucking murder. Wake up.
But I honestly think that most kids that suffered from night terrors or had chronic nightmares as a child probably experienced that very thing. For one, parents are being woken up out of a dead sleep themselves, and they're not in their best place either. But also, yes, they understand that she has some special abilities, but I'm sure she also has some just regular nightmares sometimes too. So not experiencing it yourself, you probably wouldn't necessarily know the depth of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. It's just those generic lines. It's okay. It's all right. No, it's not. Sometimes when somebody...
Right. Why aren't you listening to me?
Yeah, when somebody is going through trauma or grief or pain, sometimes they don't need you to tell them that it's okay. No, it's not okay. It would be okay to say something like, I understand how you're feeling. I'm here with you. If what do you need? That kind of thing, but not like it's okay. It's all right. That's kind of minimizing the pain she just went through. I didn't like it.
And that's what I was going to say is I want to be clear that those aren't the ways you should respond, even if it is just a regular nightmare. A child that wakes up like that is terrified, and you need to make them feel safe regardless.
Yes. And that is what I want to say is that's a very big component of, Stephen King's, works is parents not listening to their kids telling them there's something wrong. I feel like he must have a great deal of experience with that. It's also kind of a trope in horror, but a lot of his stuff has to do with adults not being trustworthy and not being able to help children with their very real problems because they're dismissive. And it's kind of boils down into what Jamie said. Like, even if there is no supernatural element, you should still be trying to help your child work through with whatever is
be
causing this and comforting them.
Be kind. And so, like, now that he has all these details written on the board, baseball boy murdered, yada, 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 somehow he decides to just leave that up on the board. I'm like, the first thing I would do is erase this so that somebody else doesn't come into my apartment and think that I was involved in the brutal murder of a child. So... let's just leave the evidence.
I didn't even think of that.
My first thought was when the murder came, like the red rum, which awesome callback there, and then it says murder, was cracked into the wall. I'm like, well, now your landlady's going to be pissed because you're not quiet and you ruined stuff. Like, your rent's going up to like $100 a week now, bud.
Yep. Too much noise, too much breaking. She actually liked the charcoal paint, which I like that idea too. I tried doing that at a bar I worked at once, just turn a whole wall into chalkboard and let people draw on it. I think that's a great idea. But
now, I don't know if this happened right before or right after, but basically he's kind of being resistant to the idea of helping with all this, and he kind of tells her to like dim her shine and don't project or whatever. But he
kind of out of fear in what he's learned to do.
Exactly. And I think it might be after, because it feeds into that, but he wakes up and he sees the ghost of that woman and her baby that he left with the bag of Cheetos, and she says they still haven't found us.
You know, I didn't put that together. I didn't realize that was the woman.
Yeah, he's got direct confirmation.
I thought she was just another ghost from the Overlook, I thought.
You're unbelievable, man.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so he has direct confirmation that because of his actions, you know, she died with her child. They still haven't found us, and I think that's what helps him to spring into action.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that makes much more sense now. I don't know how I missed that, but that is a nice twist. Yeah, cool.
But I mean, it's horrible, but it is a good story element. Yeah.
Y'all continue. I have to go pee real quick. I drank too much coffee, but keep going. I'll be right back. This will be fine. We'll include this in the podcast.
Okay.
Everybody needs a potty break, right? All right, be right back.
Another thing that I'll touch on in the Stephen King realm of things for my King heads out there is when the ghost of Halloran appears to him again and is talking to him about this. He says the phrase "Ka is a wheel." That's another direct reference to the Dark Tower series. There's a mystical force known as Ka, which is kind of like the Force in Star Wars. They talk about it like, oh, it's Ka's will, or if Ka wants it to be, it will be so. So I just thought it was nice. Yeah.
I appreciate you saying that because I wondered what Ka was. Like I was like, what?
Mike Flanagan is a huge Stephen King fan to the point where Midnight Mass feels almost it's like a lost Stephen King work in my opinion. Like it hits the same sort of tones. I appreciate that he stuck that in there as or kept it in there from the book, just as a slight connection to the Stephen King multiverse without hitting you over the head with it.
Right.
What was the connection? I missed it.
The Halloran tells him Ka is a wheel, and Ka is kind of like the Force in Stephen King's works. In the Dark Tower, they say stuff like, you know, oh, it's Ka's will, or Ka will, you know, if Ka wants it, it shall be so.
The Force binds us and protects us.
Yeah, exactly. It's that sort of thing.
Yeah, in the multiverse of all these movies, they're all talking about the same thing. Kind of like different religions talking about God. Like, oh, maybe they're all the same God. Maybe he has 6 arms and he's got a flowing beard. And so
Danny tells his buddy who gave him the job and found him the apartment what's going on, and tells him talks him into driving him to where he's able to shine out where this kid's grave is. And I feel like, compared to The Crow, I feel like his buddy reacts to this stuff a little bit more realistically than Ernie Hudson, who's just like, yeah, okay, sure, fine. I'll accept this.
Ernie Hudson also saw him get shot 50 times and then walk away from it and shit. And he saw him die originally, so he had a little bit more confirmation of the supernatural. So yeah, I mean, both of them make sense in their own way. But yeah, this okay, well, either you're completely crazy and I'm doing something really stupid, or you're telling the truth and I'm following my friend out into the woods to find a dead body. So either way sucks.
So they have this pretty dark scene of them digging up this unmarked grave of this kid, and the question just pops into my head, what did they do after that? Did they anonymously call the police, or did they just cover him back up and leave? What do you do
Nothing
in that situation to not tie yourself to the crime?
What about your car tracks? It's not like they rented a car or they stole a car, or who knows, that there was so many forensic loose ends in this.
And, well, can we talk about how long it took them to drive too? They were going from somewhere on the East Coast. It's not made incredibly clear in the movie, but it's East Coast to Iowa, back to East Coast.
Yeah, that's a 24-hour drive at least. At least.
Yes.
But I mean, that's movie logic. When somebody decides they want to go somewhere, the transportation cost and time are not an issue. It turns into Game of Thrones season 6 or 7.
This is why Europe thinks that everything in the U.S. is so small. That's why, because of movies.
And while they're doing this too, I think at this point is where we cut back to the Hat Lady, which that's what I'll be referring to her now, because Hat Lady became much less hot after the brutal murder of a child that was screaming for mercy. So now she's no longer Hot Lady, but this is where she astral projects I guess, is a way to look at it. Like, they don't explicitly, like good movies, they don't tell you exactly what's going on, but all of the reading that I've done and the people that I know that are into this kind of thing, that's what she's doing, is astral projecting, is what it feels like.
Sure.
And
Sure, like hovering over the earth and like spinning with its spin and zeroing in on this girl's location.
And even like stepping out of her body where she's at and looking around at her settings and then lifting herself up over the trees and moving. I've seen astral projection or similar ideas represented in movies at varying levels of success, in my opinion. And I thought this one was really well done. The way that I've heard it described to me, that felt like really, really good. And the fact that everybody's mind palace too. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to talk about. Like hers was a series of boxes, but then she gets into Hat Lady's head, and it's like a huge library, like card catalog. Someone who's
and that is so cool to me, because I think we all have a version. I mean, maybe not everybody has a visual representation of a mind palace, but I know that like most people I know have some version of this. And like even in therapy, they often talk about going to your safe place. And it's just a place in your mind that you feel very comfortable, a place that you feel like you are empowered and such. And I remember when I went through therapy years and years ago, and we were first trying to find a good safe spot for me to go to because of, anxiety and things of that nature. Mine was an empty theater, like an actual theater where you would do plays and stuff like that with a really big house full of chairs. And it would be me sitting in the house looking at an empty stage with all the lights on, but nobody here. And I thought that how that is such an interesting representation of our minds.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was kind of curious if either one of you have like a
safe
spot that you go to or a mind palace? What does yours look like?
It's not really a safe spot, but mine is, comic storage crates where you like open it up and flip through and pull out an issue.
The boxes, the cardboard boxes that are all like off-white.
Yep, that's kind of how I envision it, because I have a lot of experience opening those boxes and flipping through to find the right thing, and so that's just what naturally comes to mind.
So like a comic book store is yours.
Yeah.
That's cool. What about you, Jamie? Do you have a mind palace?
So I am, and I can't remember the word for it, but I am one of those people that cannot actually visualize things in my mind.
Ooh.
So mine is more sound-based.
Okay.
Mine would definitely be just like a storm. Like rain falling on a roof with thunder rumbling in the background.
Okay.
Because I don't have the ability to actually visualize things. I know what you're talking about. I can think about what it looks like in my mind, but I don't have a picture.
Man, if I couldn't visualize thing, I'd be watching a lot more porn.
Why do you do this?
I mean, sorry, did I take that in a bad direction? My bad. Let's talk about Stephen King again.
Oh, it blows my mind, because I only learned a few years ago. It blows my mind that people can actually, when somebody says picture something, you can actually see it in your brain, because I can't. That blows my mind.
It's okay, Kelley. Stephen King is a known sex pervert, so you're in good company here.
Oh my God, when I found out about the ending of It, the book, my God, like, how is this man still accepted in society? Like, that is not
It almost
cool.
made me ruin my computer by spitting water all over it.
Yeah.
We won't even touch on it because we didn't review that for this show. But oh my God, when we did that movie and y'all told me about that, oh my God, I'm like, I understand how Lolita can get written because it's supposed to be a do not do this, but the Stephen King book, it feels like it. Anyways, we'll move on from the orgy.
Stephen King in the 80s is notorious for he was on massive amounts of cocaine, like, the entire time.
I'm more worried, was he on an Epstein flight list? That's what I'm more curious about.
Yeah,
I don't care if he's on cocaine. Go ahead and damage your own brain. It's other people's brains I don't want you to damage.
Right, yeah. So there is that. But yes, Stephen King, known sex pervert.
Hey, God bless again. Like, I don't mind. I'm very sex positive, and I'm not saying that Stephen King is a pedophile.
Yeah.
Don't write in the papers that Stephen King is a pedophile, because I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying it's a little weird. Have you seen Stephen King and a pedophile in the same room together? Never mind.
So I like the way that they set the trap for the psychic vampires.
Yes.
It's a little Last Jedi-ish, where she's just kind of sitting there on that bench, and they go to her, but she's not really there. She is herself astral projecting, and Danny
into
and his
a
friend,
stuffed animal.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? We didn't even mention the sort of side story for the tribe of people of them picking up that girl with the shine who is killing pedophiles. Who's like luring them into movie theaters.
Yep.
She has the shine, and she's able to like memory hole them and use the Force. These are not the droids you're looking for.
Well, and that's where you almost think that maybe the hat lady is actually a positive or a neutral person because, like, oh, you want to recruit somebody that's killing pedophiles. That's a good thing. No.
Right. Then they eat a kid. Yeah.
Then they brutally murder and torture a child.
Yeah.
You kind of get the grasp, too, that maybe they want to take her to their side before she fights against them because her power is incredibly powerful and she can make them do what she wants them to do. And if she was fighting against them, she'd be something to fight against.
But then you learn that she's just the bait girl. That's why they wanted her.
I've all of a sudden done a mental connection that I don't know if is true or not. But who is the girl? The one that's the one that we're talking about. The one that can suggest things to a person.
The pusher.
What's her name?
Let me see.
Okay, Snakebite Andy. Her name is Emily Allen Lind. Okay, that's the name of the actor is Emily Allen Lind. I think I might be mispronouncing it. But all of a sudden it just occurred to me that she looks very similar to a character from the movie or from the TV show Heroes. If either one of you have ever seen that.
I have not watched Heroes. I've heard of it.
Oh, it's so good. Season 1 of Heroes is one of the best superhero stories I've ever seen, ever. Probably, and I would consider it the best superhero story I've ever seen.
I heard it gets kind of bullshitty at the end, though. That's what I've heard.
Season 1 is a great, all-encompassing story. If you just watch Season 1, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it closes out. You don't need to watch Season 2. Okay. Season 1 is great all on its own, and just stop watching it at the end of Season 1. But the reason why I bring it up is that there's a character in that show, and not to spoil it because I'm not going to tell you much about her, but there's a character in that show that she is a beautiful young woman that has short black hair that is able to verbally suggest things to people, and they cannot resist it. That's her superpowers. She can say, kill yourself or take off all your clothes or jump off a balcony. And she's one of the most powerful superheroes or mutants or whatever you want to call it in the world. And she looks just like this person. And all of a sudden, like I'm doing the math going, was it the same actor? I don't think it was the same
It's not.
actor.
I just looked. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, I'm looking too. She's not.
So the image I just linked, that is...
Oh, she does look similar. Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought that was... it just now occurred to me that, wow, they have a character that looks very similar, that has the same exact power, and in Heroes, the TV show, when we're first brought to her is because she's doing it to people that kind of deserve it. So, yeah, I don't know if they intentionally borrowed this idea or if it was just, great minds think alike, fools seldom differ kind of thing.
There's also what I thought was the good depiction of, hey, these guys are villains and they're slaves to their hunger. When the patriarch of the tribe dies and they're all gathering around him and they're sort of wishing him well into his transfer, but once he releases the steam, they cannot help themselves and they just feed on him. It's another horrible, scary little yucky moment.
I think even the Fremen would acknowledge that you don't waste
the
water.
Sure. You're right. Yeah, you don't waste the water.
Especially if we're in a drought, we're going to save every little bit that we can.
But it's just so dark here. Like, that's a positive in Dune, you know what I mean? But here it's just like, it's like nasty business.
We love him, devour him. And immediately, like flip of a switch, they go from love and respect to, oh, he's dead now, let's fucking eat him.
Well, and I think part of it is because the way they do it, it's not done in a respectful way. When they go from like being respectful and being calm to being very frenzied and
no self-control. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
They're vampires. For all intents and purposes, they're vampires without the healing properties real time. They need to devour a soul to heal themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, I love the fact that, like, vampires as we know it, these would be very underpowered vampires. But if you actually took somebody that had this power in our real world, like, people don't think about it that much, that even a low-level superhero, somebody that has very, very meager powers, would be able to manipulate a lot of things in our world depending on what their superpower was. So, yeah, that's really good.
So we kill off a bunch of the tribe with Danny and his buddy with their rifles after this ambush. Abracadabra girl gets taken briefly, but then Danny kind of wargs into her body and psychs the driver guy out to make him crash his truck. And now it's time to...
No, she actually controlled it. She pulled the wheel.
Oh, did she?
I think is what she does. She actually pulls the wheel from the back seat. He controlled her body enough that he could control her.
Does.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Which almost alludes to the fact of even though Danny doesn't have the raw power that she does, he has a different kind of power that he could inhabit somebody else that has that much power and use that
it.
power.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
so he's in a sense even stronger. And now it feels like we're talking about different Jedi and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
Which I dig. That's fine. But
yeah.
Which I think is kind of funny too that Hot Lady at this point has tried to assault the girl in her astral projecting or something like that in her mind palace like 2 or 3 times.
And keeps getting her ass kicked.
And I'm like, lady, you have got balls the size of church bells. Yeah,
right.
You are getting your ass kicked every fucking time. And you're convinced that you're going to win this fight. And so is the little girl. And I'm like, why is everybody convinced that the Hat Lady's going to win when she's getting her ass kicked every fucking time she comes in here? She's like Worf from Star Trek. We're told that she's strong, but all we see is her getting her ass kicked.
Well, she's never encountered this before, right? She's never been stopped. She's never been stood up to. No one has ever been able to keep her at bay. So it's like can't accept the fact that this is a thing that's possible, right? Denial on her part.
Like a lot of people in power have a lot of arrogance around their power and how powerful they are.
Okay, sure. I mean, it was one of those where I'm not sure if this was written on purpose to make me think that these characters are just psyched out.
Yeah.
Or if it was just like kind of not really considered in the writing. But from an audience point of view, we're supposed to fear this woman that is getting her ass kicked over and over again. I didn't fear her. Even at the final scene where she's like coming to the Overlook Hotel and stuff, I wasn't really afraid of her because every time we saw her fight, she got her ass kicked. So what am I'm not worried about a villain that gets their ass kicked over and over again. That doesn't scare me.
But I think that the fear there comes to the fact that is the Overlook going to immediately bond with her and give her the extra rush of power.
If we're understanding the Overlook, it's just going to devour her too. But then
eventually
the Overlook would have her powers too. So I don't know.
Right.
But
that's what it was to me is that when she got there, was it going to channel through her against them so that they had to fight her in the Overlook, which is kind of what happens.
Yeah. Speaking of the Overlook, it's time to Danny's plan is to use Abracadabra Girl as bait to lure Rose, the last surviving member of this tribe there. And this is kind of when the movie gets to me simultaneously most interesting and also suffers the most because it's on paper, and if you're just watching this movie as a sequel to The Shining, it does fall into the trap of, hey, remember this, hey, remember this, hey, remember this.
The blood coming down the hallway, which if they reshot that scene just for like a 5-second flashback, like, why don't you just use the... It seemed if I was the producer of this movie, I'd be like, why did we waste so much movie or so much money on this? Even if CGI, well done CGI, but even then I'm like, how much did we spend on that effect? We could just go to the old reel and remaster it and put it in. I don't know. From the audience point of view, it wouldn't have made a difference. And it feels like it probably was very wasteful. Now that I'm hearing that it was all new footage, I'm like, but why? Like, I understand why you have to do new footage for the naked lady, which we'll get there in a minute. But the footage for just 5 seconds of blood rushing down a hallway, when all we're doing is we're seeing a memory anyways. What if we saw the actual memory? No actors are in that, so there's not going to be like, oh, Jack Nicholson looks different in this scene than he does in the other one. There are no actors. Why don't you just use the fucking scene? I don't know. But
so there's a little of that, and I'm not blind to that. But what I like the most, the addition to this, is the barroom scene with Danny steps in, and it's now Jack Torrance is the bartender, which is one of the greatest callbacks to The Shining.
And fitting. Wonderful.
Yeah.
That was, and the actor, he was like, the woman that played Shelley Duvall was like a 9.5 out of 10. He was a good, like, solid 8 or 9 out of 10, and that little bit of buffer allowed me to get into it more.
Hey, you want to know who that is?
That's E.T. That's Elliot from E.T.
It's Elliot from E.T.
Yeah. Oh my God. I used to love Elliot from E.T. back in the day.
He's in all of Mike Flanagan's stuff pretty much. He's like one of his partner actors.
As is Abra.
He did a great job. His mannerisms were very close to Jack Nicholson. Enough to anybody that watched the first movie, we know exactly who this is. Just the way he had his eyebrows arched and stuff like that. Like that was definitely really creepy scene. And that's, you say you didn't, this is the high point and the low point in some ways for you. For me, this was like, I loved this because the Overlook Hotel was my favorite character in the first movie.
Sure. I don't dislike it. It's just, it does, you can't say it doesn't fall into the trap of, hey, remember this. You know, it's a little bit of member berries are happening. While we're talking about that scene where he's the bartender, I get a little emotional at it because with Danny, you want him to have some closure, but it doesn't give you that. He says, he's like, don't you want to know about Mom or whatever? He breaks down when he's trying to confront him. Mm-hmm. And that just causes the spirit of Jack Torrance to go into talking about how much he hates family and he's driven to drink. And it's like devastating for if you're trying to reach out to your dad and all he's hanging on to is his misery from life. And, it's, I don't know, it kind of touched me a little bit just because it's like he's not allowed that closure. Yeah. He's denied that touching moment.
Well, if this movie is an analogy for recovery, that absolutely makes sense. And if you boiled down, if the first movie was all about addiction and this movie was all about recovery, you could just cut this scene out. And this tells you, this is the meat and potatoes. This is the bonk bonk over the head. This is the story of recovery.
Right.
Because like he comes to a place where you can dive in and chat with your dad in your mind and, in this fake way. And you could have a drink and you could relax and a lot of this stuff would go away and the pain would go away and yada, yada. But instead he doesn't even say anything about the drink. He just kind of ignores it for a little while. And then he starts asking these questions of his father. And then it's kind of known that it's the whole closure comes from within. You're never going to get the answer from somebody else. And finally he sees his dad's rage and he sees the fact that his dad didn't really care about him. This could be a therapy session, like he's sitting with his therapist and he's finally realizing, wait, my dad didn't like us. He didn't want to have a family. That's what drove him to drink. And he was just an asshole and he didn't get help for his problems and yada, yada. And then it ends with him standing up and specifically saying no, thank you to the drink and walking away. And I was like, oh my God, the man in me that is in recovery, like that almost brought a tear to my eye because that's what it's all about. That's how I have gotten over a lot of the humps that I've dealt with in my recovery is even when these moments happen where I feel like I'm really pushed to the edge emotionally and yada, realizing that it all comes from within, that how I address the situation is more important. And it starts with saying no thank you to the drink and walking away and really thinking realistically about what really fucking happened in your life and being brutally honest with yourself and the people around you and yada. So I absolutely love that scene, and not because it was creepy and there was the horror element, which I enjoyed it from an audience standpoint, but from an alcoholic standpoint, I enjoyed it very much because that was an analog for stepping away.
Okay, now you wanted to talk about Tub Girl, I believe you said?
Yeah, no, let's talk about Naked Ladies. The Naked Lady is gotta be like, she is a symbol for everything that made this movie not quite as good as the first movie, in my mind.
I would agree. She's overexposed and she's not as scary as she was.
Overexposed. Some would say she was overexposed in the first one too. But yeah, like example that in the first movie she was alluded to a couple of times, maybe 2 times, 3 times. I don't know. I'm working off memory, but a couple of times she's alluded to where you see her hand reaching around the shower curtain. And then eventually at one point you do see her for like a total of like 3 seconds or something like that on the screen. And it's enough where here we are 50 years later, people are still talking about it. And it felt like somebody in an executive suite said, oh my God, everybody remembers the Naked Lady from the first movie. And those 3 seconds made them talk for 50 years. We should have like 5 minutes of the Naked Lady in this movie. They'll be talking about it for 500 years. And it's like, that's not how it works. People talked about it because you didn't overexpose it. In this movie, I was getting tired of seeing the Naked Lady.
Exactly.
There were so many other people that you could have used.
Yeah, it didn't scare me. It didn't shock me. It didn't even gross me out. Like, it felt like they wanted to go, look at this saggy boobs. Isn't it gross? And I'm just like, no.
Let's be honest. We all know that the twins were the creepiest ones anyways.
Come and play with us forever.
Honestly, the first movie, the bartender maitre d', he's the one that scared me the most.
Grady.
Because he actually talked to him. Yeah,
Yep.
he was actually trying to reason with him.
Yeah.
And that's where things get creepy, when like spirits on the other side are actually trying to reason with you and logic you into coming to theirs.
I was creeped out by the girls. My whole life been creeped out by those twins.
Yeah, I can see it, but yeah, not as much for me. But the naked lady was definitely a huge, like, I don't know why we did that so fucking much.
Yeah, that falls into the whole thing that I was saying is that, hey, remember this, The Shining, everybody, you love it.
So you can apply this logic to this movie. Where is the same discernment when it comes to Rise of Skywalker, my friend? Now, anyways, I'll move on. I know it's already been litigated, but...
We could ask you the same thing about Lady Hawk.
Hey, no, there was no fan service. It was the only movie in the franchise.
I'm going to have a restraining order put against you for bringing up Rise of Skywalker. That has been litigated already, as you know. The inverse of this, what I find so interesting is that the movie version of this marries, as stated earlier, the book version of The Shining and the movie version of The Shining and the book version of Dr. Sleep all together, to the point where Stephen King has said that the ending of this movie has made him on board with the original Shining now, as a result of this, because the ending of this is almost note for note the ending of the book The Shining. In the book, Jack Torrance he has a moment of clarity, or a couple of moments of clarity, after being possessed by the hotel or falling in with the hotel
and almost killing his family.
Right, and he sets the boiler system to be overpressured, and that's how the Shining ends. Is the hotel explodes.
Oh my God! Spoiler.
In this, the hotel is still there
from a book that was written before any of us were born.
Right. What is it, like 77, I think, is when that book...
Oh, it's close. That's close. Just barely.
Yeah.
But, so in the book of Dr. Sleep, he still takes them to the area where the hotel was, but it's no longer there because it blew up. But, they still go into, like, the rooms and sees it, but it's all psychically. It's like a psychic battle that he has with Rose the Hat. But, in this, they take the ending of the Shining novel and put it on film, and I just think it's very clever the way that it was done. Yes. So it acts as a sequel and an adaptation to the whole shebang. The Shining, like, put a bow on it.
The way you described it, that no matter which one you experienced, if you experienced the book or the movie or both of those fit nicely into this narrative, and that's elegant and masterfully done. That as a movie watcher, it felt completely consistent with what I thought. As a book watcher or book reader for y'all, you both got exactly what you were expecting too, and that's brilliant. Well done.
So I have a quote about that from Stephen King. It says, during early talks, King's two stipulations for the Dr. Sleep adaptation was that the Overlook would not be present and that the novel's ending would be retained. King initially rejected Flanagan's pitch of bringing back the Overlook as seen in Kubrick's film, but changed his mind after Flanagan pitched a scene within the hotel towards the end of the film that served as his reason to bring back the Overlook. Upon reading the script, King was so satisfied with the result, he said, "Everything that I ever disliked about the Kubrick version of The Shining is redeemed for me here."
So now he does like The Shining.
Yes, now he...
Okay.
Yeah. Because of this
I'm glad
we're all on the same page.
I'm sure the bags of money being taken to his house didn't hurt either. Let's just say. Yeah, I'm sure he's made plenty of money off of the Shining movie, too.
Yes.
Also of note, that scene that we love, that bartender scene, that is not in the book. Mm-hmm. That is one of the scenes that got Stephen King on board. Mike Flanagan wrote that himself, and Stephen King was like, "This is fantastic."
Yeah, and there's no denying that both actors came with their A game. It was really well written. It was a nice way to. That is a bow on the two movie series. That you could like. That isn't the ending of it, but that is the mental victory. That's where he wins. Kind of.
Sure. Yeah. But it's kind of sad because just like Jack, now he's allowed to, or I guess he lets himself be taken by the hotel so that they can get to Rose, but he's chasing her around with an axe, and when the hotel blows up, Daniel Torrance goes with it. But he's not gone, because no one's ever really gone.
Not if you're a good user of the Force. You come back as a Force ghost.
Right, so Obi-Wan's Force ghost appears to this girl at the very end.
Obi-Wan's Force ghost is busy. Let me just say, he's going to see a lot of people. He's like, Obi-Wan, can you come see me on Thursday? Thursday at 1 isn't a good time for me. I'd meet at Friday at 2:30. I have a half hour for you.
I have to be at a little girl's birthday party in Ohio.
I have to write hello on a board. Don't ask me why. It's a long story. It involves vampires.
But the visual shorthand for this is the same as when they showed Doc earlier. The girl is talking to him, and somebody, walks in and says something, and she's like, just a minute or whatever, and the camera shows that no one's actually there. And so we know for a fact that Daniel Torrance has moved on.
I felt like this would have been a great ending for them, the parents to walk in and say, honey, who are you talking to? And for her to look at them and smile and say, no one. And then just cut to black.
Right. But instead we get the tub lady again.
Yeah, we get the tub lady again. One more time, of course.
Right.
Jesus Christ. And also we get her explaining to her parents, like, oh, I have something I have to tell you, yada, yada. Which I guess that's a better message. So if, like, you had a kid watching this movie, the lesson is to be honest with people. The whole Dr. Seuss sign of be who you are and say what you feel, because those...
No. It's Dr. Sleep. It's not Dr. Seuss. Get it right.
Well, come on now. We live in 2024, and we all know capitalism rules, and that gives you that just a little bit extra to be able to say, if you want to do another sequel, you can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was that's Dr. Sleep, and now we're at the portion of the show where we talk about whether we liked it or not. So
no, we're not. We're at the portion where we decide what the popcorn bucket is.
Before we even start that, I just want to say that yes, I have been looking while we've been doing all of this and talking and stuff. I was looking, and there is quite a bit of discussion about the rampant racism in Stephen King's books, including his take on Native American and Romani and Black culture, and how he uses all of them in his books. So there is a lot out there about that.
To his credit, I will say, he shows a lot of horrible things, and a lot of racism stuff happens in his books, but I don't get the idea that he is those are not his. That's not his voice. Maybe it is by villainizing the Romanis a little bit, but it's more just like an unfiltered showing of the way people behave horribly. Like, horrible racism is a big part of the subtext of it, and it's not depicted in a good light. Also, homophobia is a big part of the subtext in it, and it also is not depicted in a redeeming light or anything like that. But there are lots of unfiltered instances of horrible things in his novels. He does not sugarcoat or dance around depictions of that stuff.
It also feels like, and I'm reading a couple people talking about it right now, and it feels like me and the author of this would agree that even though he's not what do we call it in sociology? It's the opposite of a timid racist. It's like an active racist or something like that. He's not actively being racist and leaning into his racism, but he feels like he falls into that. He's got a lot of racist stereotypes rolling around in his brain, which makes sense. If he's like 70 years old, that means he's probably a baby boomer, and he was raised with a lot of racist stereotypes in his media and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I'm not sitting here decrying Stephen King, and
he does come from an incredibly white area.
Yeah. So, like,
it's just like his natural his natural casual racism, right? As so many people have.
And he is almost 80.
You have these racist stereotypes, and instead of combating them in an active way, you're creating media that kind of furthers those stereotypes. Not doing it in a mean way. You're not being malicious, but your ignorance is causing malice. It's causing trauma.
It's still propagated.
It's perpetuating the same stereotypes. Yeah, these we know now that the horrible stereotypes against Romani were done by horrible racist people, and the Romani are a proud culture, the same as any other culture pretty much on the planet. So it's worth noting that I don't think he's intending to do it. I don't think he's like I was talking about with it. Like, I don't think he's a pedophile out there, like, scoping out kids' playgrounds. But there are some elements where it's like, it's interesting that your brain even went there, because I don't know if I would have, you know?
And it could be said in regards to Dr. Sleep itself, it could be said that these steam vampires are not so much Romani as they are appropriating Romani culture.
Right, because I don't think
appropriating the worst elements.
Yeah, I don't think they're not natural. They're depicted as basically, I would assume, a multicultural group of these vampires who have come together over the centuries and whatnot.
Yes, they are definitely multicultural, although still fairly white.
But you put a Romani skin on them, and what else are you supposed to pick up on, right?
Right. Yep.
So we're going to talk about your popcorn bucket. I'll just throw out one more alternative title. We're going to just call this movie Anesthesiologist, the Steam Vampire Edition. Yeah. So popcorn buckets. What do you? Did you have an idea? Because nothing really comes to mind right away for me. But I imagine, Keith, you probably have one in your back pocket.
Not really. It's hard to nail down like an icon that represents this movie.
You want a really horrifying one?
I don't know.
The baseball glove.
Yeah. Ooh, the baseball.
Baseball glove.
Bloody baseball glove.
Or you go up and you order whatever you order from the popcorn stand. They just hand you a bottle of whiskey and glare at you.
Or I know what it is. It's the little steam canister, right? And you open it up. And
yeah. I did make a note about that I've never seen that Stanley attachment.
Yeah, that'll be the 2025 shopping item of the year.
It reminded me of the stuff from Jurassic Park, the way it opens. That they were holding the embryos.
The DNA
in.
containers. The embryos. Yep. Yeah. You didn't say the magic word.
I also what if it isn't actually popcorn?
Wait, what?
We have all this molecular gastronomy now. What if you order popcorn and instead you get steamed
so it's
popcorn flavored steam?
Okay. So it's the highbrow molecular gastronomy popcorn steam box
breathing
that you
popcorn aerosol. All right. So now we're going to talk about the movie and whether we would give it a thumbs up. Let's start with Jamie. Did you like Dr. Sleep, and would you give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
You really want to do this? Here. Now? Yes. Okay, let's do it!
I love this movie. I love Mike Flanagan. I absolutely, thoroughly, enthusiastically give it a thumbs up.
Hey.
And it was my pick, so, that makes sense.
Awesome. What about you, Keith? Would you give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
Yes, this is a definite thumbs up. I love Mike Flanagan. I like this movie. I love The Shining. I like Stephen King. It's got a lot going in its favor. I don't, by any stretch of the imagination, necessarily love or think it's a perfect movie, but I like it, and this is, I think, my third time watching it, and I am not turned off. If someone wanted to watch it at some point in the future, I would probably watch it again, so yes, that is a thumbs up from me. What about you, Kelley?
Yeah, definite thumbs up. Perfect all around from all three of us. I think this was a great movie. This is the kind of horror movie that when I told you years ago that I wanted to be exposed to more horror movies, this is the kind of movie that I want to see. Movies that are creepy, movies that are dealing with, they have a lot of liminal spaces and a lot of ambiguity, especially The Shining, the first part. And also, coming from a person that's in recovery myself, the heavy leaning on AA and recovery, I thought that was great. And if anybody listening to this is struggling with addiction, I can tell you from experience that it just takes help. You can't do it yourself sometimes. That's why we have things like AA. I'm not religious. I had trouble with AA because it's so religious. But there are ways to use it so that it benefits you. It starts with admitting that you need help and then reaching out to people because there are a ton of people that are out there that are looking to help you. So no matter what kind of addiction you're dealing with, whether it's booze, whether it's pills, whether it's gambling, whatever it happens to be, there are other people out there that are going through the same thing, and we gain strength through helping each other. And one of the lines we learned in AA is you keep it by giving it away. And there are a lot of people out there like me that want to help. I absolutely adore anybody that is starting their recovery journey and they come to me and they're asking me for help. I will absolutely, do whatever I can to help you. So I thought that by itself was wonderful.
Yes, it's unfortunate. A lot of people get trapped into thinking that, it's strength to show that I don't need anyone's help and I can do this on your own, when in actuality, it's strength to admit when you need help, because people are not islands and everyone needs help at some point or another. So don't let some weird, toxic, understanding of
gotta do it on your own kind of understanding.
Yeah. If you need help, ask for help. Lots
and
of
even if
people
you think
to
things
help.
are really bad right now and there's no way out, I got to tell you, things were really fucking bad for me when I finally got help. And my life has been night and day difference since then. And I have accomplished so many things that I never thought I could finish before, because I was always carrying around this burden of an anchor around my neck, or whichever way you want to visualize it. So, this movie, in the addiction allegory, the addiction and recovery allegory, I thought this was wonderful. And these two movies really speak to it. And I thought this movie specifically, I felt that even before I knew that it was a recovery analog, because I felt it. I was like, this movie is there's somebody that was involved in this, or several people involved in this have been to AA meetings or NA meetings. Somebody has gone through recovery that you've almost put the bottle to your lips, or you did put the bottle to your lips, but you didn't take a drink, and that, good for you. Good for you. And remember, you're not trying to be sober for 100 years. You're just trying to be sober today. Just get through today.
Right. And then you can try tomorrow.
Yep. I had an ex of mine that she was a wonderful, wonderful partner at the time that I was getting sober originally. And every once in a while I would have a rough day, like things would be going wrong or something like that. And I would just be frank with her. I'd be like, days like today make me want to go out and have a fucking drink. And she would say, yeah, why don't we do that tomorrow? But we don't go today. Well, today, we'll just leave today as it is. And if you really want to drink tomorrow, we'll go get it tomorrow. And I knew that she was joking, but it was that point of like, if I can just put it off for a couple hours, that feeling will pass. And then I'll recognize that I don't need that to get by and shit.
And that's part of what makes this story, I feel, justify its existence, because it falls into one of those things, like there's certain things that, after so much time has past, leave it alone. And for a lot of people, The Shining was one of those things, right? Don't make a sequel to it. Nobody's asking for a sequel to it. But the fact that when you put them on a shelf together, there are two parts that make a whole. One is addiction, one is recovery. It kind of helps justify its existence a little bit.
Yeah, like I still would say that I kind of like The Shining better overall as just a movie.
Me, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
But both are really good up there. It's kind of like Star Wars versus Empire Strikes Back. Empire was a little bit better in my mind, but Star Wars is still fucking great. I still enjoyed it. So,
and you could watch this movie without ever having seen The Shining and still glean a lot from the movie.
Oh yeah.
You wouldn't get the callbacks, but you would get the movie. You don't have to have seen The Shining to get it. So
nope. I had a friend with me that watched the movie with me when we watched it, and she was not confused at all, really. And she said she had a good time with it. So there you go. Case in point.
So that was Dr. Sleep.
Yeah, those were our thoughts about Mr. Anesthesiologist. What did you think? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Do you think our ideas are all cockamamie bullshit and we are all needing to think about where our lives are going? Let us know. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram. We have a Discord server. Come by ko-fi.com/screenshare, and you can subscribe for as little as, I think I have a $5 a month is a low one, and you get a vote in upcoming polls, because we're going to start polling our audience to see who wants us to watch what movie. And because we live in a capitalist environment and Citizens United, your votes are with dollars. So
money talks, scrubs. Make with the moolah.
Yeah. And it helps us get this, all the stuff that we need to make this possible. And And as much as we love doing it for you, it just makes it a little bit easier. Do you want to make us watch a specific movie? Yeah, it's right there on Patreon. Get together with your friends, everybody pitch in a couple of bucks and force us to watch a movie of your choosing. Upcoming, we do have, for the month of October, we're going to be talking about horror movies, as very different than what we're doing right now, apparently. So, I mean, and we haven't decided on a name. Screen Scare and Thrill, Screen Share and Chill. No, that's our normal name. So Screen Share and Thrill. I don't know. Like
Scream, Share, and Chill.
Scream, Share, and Chill.
Scream, Scare, and Thrill?
Nope. Scream, Share, and Chill. That's it.
Scream, Share?
Yes.
I kind of like Scream, Scare, and Thrill. Like it's
too much.
Scream, Scare, and Thrill.
Too much. It's
Your
too much.
face is too much.
It is. A lot of people can't handle the beauty.
Oy.
Well, so we will see you next week with the first edition of our Scream, Share, and Chill series, where we're really going to delve more into some horror movies because we all love spooky season.
For the spooky month of October.
Yes.
We all love spooky season, but Kelley doesn't like spooky movies.
Yeah, I don't
like
know.
spooky movies. I just don't like the gore and the jump scares. That's my thing.
I don't like
man.
gore either.
Yeah, heavy gore,
I'm
heavy
on board
jump
with
scares.
jump scares,
cheap.
but I don't like gore.
It feels like I'm paying somebody to punch me in the face. I don't like it.
Give it all to me. Jump scare me, splatter me with gore, and make me creeped out, and I'm a happy camper.
We might want to put you on the same list that we have Stephen King on then if you're really into like why did you anyways for Screen Share.
I'm just
and
saying
Chill,
you might not want to say that to the general public. You might really regret that in the future.
and if you're writing a novel in the future, no orgies. So just stay away from the orgies altogether. We'll just make it easy for you.
Well, can I can I have adult orgies at least? I mean, I'll stay away from
I don't know.
I'll stay away from the preteen sewer orgies, but can I at least have an adult orgy?
What the hell is even that?
Okay, and on that note, for Screen Share and Chill, I'm Kelley.
I'm Keith.
I'm Jamie.
Please don't call the police on us. Please, we didn't mean it. We didn't mean it. Bye.
Bye.
I'm going to call the police. You go ahead, call them. Call anybody you want. They can't do